So good afternoon to Europe and good morning to North America and Canada. And I can see some people from Asia region. So hello to everyone who had to wake up in the middle of the night, I guess, to join us. We really appreciate that. So I'm glad to have artists and cultural and creative industry professionals here. We have registration from 29 countries. Thank you for accepting our invitation. I'm Andrea Kristek-Kozarova. I'm from Bratislava, Slovakia, where I work for Slovak Union of Visual Arts, and I'm also acting president of International Association of Art Europe. So let me please welcome you at the third debate, so-called IAA Talks, which is titled Artists on the Run. I will briefly introduce our organization for those who are new to this group and explain why we organized this meeting. So IAA Europe is a network of almost 40 organizations of professional visual artists in Europe and North America. It's partner of UNESCO and a proud member of Culture Action Europe. And IAA Europe is together with 4 other regions, Latin America and Caribbean, Africa, Arab countries, and Asia and Pacific, member of International Association of Art Europe, the worldwide NGO, the largest NGO of professional visual artist organizations. What do we do? The IAA Europe supports, or IAP supports the exchange and cooperation among artists worldwide, and our main focus is on improving of social, legal, and economical status and rights of artists. We are focused mainly on fair remuneration for artists, on copyright protection and freedom of expression. And this talk is organized on the occasion of the World Art Day. World Art Day is celebrated since 2012, I guess, and in 2020, from 2020, it's one of the international UNESCO days. And the last 2 debates were focused on financial stability, or I would say instability of visual artists, because we all know that many artists work in very precarious conditions, also in the normal times of peace, and they are very often very vulnerable when it comes to fair remuneration and social security and things like that. But against the backdrop of war in Ukraine, we have decided to dedicate this IAA talk to our colleagues, our friends, visual artists, not only visual artists, of course, to all artists at risk, to our fellow colleagues and artists who have had to leave their homes and country and their everyday lives. And we will be talking not only about the situation in Ukraine, but also we try to get the wider perspective, since we know that there have been various war conflicts in the past. So hopefully we will have 6 speakers today when Konstantin joins us from organizations that are helping artists on the run. And together we will try to find the answer to the very basic questions. How could we help, and what is needed the most? So let's use the expertise of our guests and our today's time together to strengthen our connections, maybe to create new bonds, new networks, and our ability to react to crisis as effectively as possible when it comes to moral, financial, and practical support. So I now give the floor to our moderator, Hilde Tordel, who is a visual artist from Norway. She's also Vice President of IAA Europe and Director of Telemark Kunst Center. Thank you again, Hilde, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and welcome from me too, from my side. We have 5 speakers today, but if Konstantin hasn't showed up yet, then we should probably start with Georg Schöllhammer. And do you think so, Andrea? Would that be a good idea?
Maybe I could share the the position of IAA Europe or Executive Committee, our statement to the situation in Ukraine, because we all have been witnessing what is going on in the past 2 months, and how the reality looks like in democratic country. I'm from Slovakia, so I'm living in a neighboring country, so I'm experiencing every day people coming, crossing our borders and finding themselves here without any idea how their lives will continue. Those people are, men and women and children, and also elderly, who a couple months ago had real, many times perfect lives and background in their cities, and now everything is just gone. So it's really overwhelming and sad and unimaginable in the 21st century, but it is what it is. And sorry, hello from South Korea in the chat. So we have, this is what I want to mention, that we have Ethiopian artists based in South Korea. So we have really whole world covered in this talk. But back to Ukraine. So IAA Europe, of course, as a Europe-wide organization, has member from Ukraine. We have so-called national committees, which are local national organizations gathering professional artists in this or that country. And when this war attack started in February, we were immediately contacted by representatives of this National Union of Artists of Ukraine, their chairman, Mr. Konstantin Chernyavsky. I really hope he is fine now and he will join us later. And they were calling upon us to do something, or at least to say something, to make a statement. So we took some time, the people of Executive Committee of IAA Europe, because on the other hand, we also have members from Russia and from Belarus. So we tried to contact them and find out how they feel, how they what they think, or what can they say, how can they express themselves on this topic. But all our calls remained without answer. Sure, we know the situation in Russia, that the freedom of expression is not really working there, but we tried to get at least some words, but we had no answer. Then we found on the website of Russian National Committee the statement which was quite clearly declaring the position of this organization, and they in a way agreed with the official acts of Russian president and the government, so thus with the war. Well, we know that we cannot blame all individual artists in Russia for this statement, but we have decided that we will follow the majority of the world organizations, and we will put all the activities related to Russian arts and culture on hold for the moment, until the moment when we receive any statement from Russian or Belarusian colleagues condemning this war. So we keep waiting, and we temporarily suspended their membership in IAA Europe, and the next General Assembly in autumn will decide. And we are also trying to support our Ukrainian colleagues. So we offer them a year with, or a years, we will see, without obligation to pay membership fee. And we are also recommending all our national committees in all European countries to do their best to help Ukrainian refugees, and to issue IAA card, which is identification card of professional artists, to issue this card to all Ukrainian professionals who will apply for it. And we are also collecting the information about opportunities for Ukrainian artists in each country, and trying to share those via our website and the social media. Hi, Konstantin.
Hi, good day.
Good day to you.
Hello. Hi, we can see you, we can hear you. Great to see you. I was a bit worried. Is everything okay with you?
Yeah, hi.
It's okay.
That is great. Then we have all 5 speakers with us today at this IAA talk, and I will introduce each speaker shortly to you before just before their inputs. And each speaker has about 10 minutes set for their presentation. When the five speakers have given their inputs, I will open the floor for questions and inputs from all of you, dear participants attending the talk. You can also write down your questions in the chat during input session, but we will wait to address the questions after R4 has finished. Five, sorry. So then, welcome, and our first speaker today is Konstantin Chernyavsky, who is the chairman of National Union of Artists Ukraine. And it is an exceptional honor to have him with us today, given the war going on as we speak. The Union of Artists of Ukraine dates back to its first assemblies in the years of the 1930s in Kharkiv. First, it was the Union of Soviet Artists of Ukraine, but today it is the Union of Artists of Ukraine, and it is based in Kijev. Konstantin Chernyavsky joined the union in 2008 and became its Secretary General in 2013. In 2021, he was elected the head of the National Union of Artists Ukraine. Konstantin Chernyavsky is the recipient of numerous artistic prizes and the Academy titles in his own country and internationally. So as I said, Konstantin, it is an honor to have you speaking with us today and to hear you speak about your association's work and how you're dealing with the situation now under military attack by Russia and the war that has been going on for some years already. We all feel immensely privileged to be given your first-hand account on what the situation for visual artists of Ukraine find themselves in, and listen to your advice on how that we can do what we can do, and both as individual artists and as artist associations, and do to help these days. So Konstantin, please, I'm passing the word to you now.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, first of all, let me express my gratitude for the opportunity to take part in this super important event. I have the honor to represent the National Union of Artists of Ukraine, the most powerful art institute which has more than 4,500 members. On behalf of the Ukrainian professional artists, I would like to thank you, our European brothers and sisters, for your support of Ukraine in this bloody war for our freedom and independence. We are grateful for your humanitarian help for the shelter of our refugees in the European Union, for everything you have done and are doing for us. After February 24, when Russia attacked Ukraine, life changed for all of us on before and after. Russia brought death, destruction, pain, and tears to our land. Mariupol, Kharkiv, Chernihiv, Mykolaiv, Kiev, Irpin, Bucha, Trostianets, Sumy, Akhtirka, Donbass, Luhansk region, occupied Kherson, Zaporizhzhia region. This is a not complete list of cities, towns, and villages where Russian fans kill, rape civilians, women, children, and even babies. There are no safe places in Ukraine today because Russia is firing missiles all over the country. Tens of thousands of the civilians have been killed and tortured. A significant number of people have become internally displaced. Almost 3 million women and children have left Ukraine. Russia's goal is complete destruction of Ukraine as a state, the destruction of the national, the complete destruction of our culture. The ancient historical Chernihiv has been destroyed, the large industrial Mariupol has been wiped off the face of the earth. In many cities, the sites of history and culture, museums, art, galleries, theaters, art studios have been destroyed. I had a train ticket to Mariupol for February 24. On February 25, I had to be in Mariupol at the opening of the personal exhibition of our colleague Vasil Korenchuk in the art museum named after Arkhip Puinji, an outstanding Ukrainian artist whose name was bestowed by Russia by the way like Malevich and Ilya Repin. There is no more Puinji museum in Mariupol. It was completely destroyed by a direct hit of an air bomb. All the creative heritage of Vasil Korenchuk is lost because the creative studio was also located in a museum. And this situation with a completely lost creative heritage is not unequivocal. Many artists were left without homes, without workshops, paintings of sculptures, without means of livelihood. And despite this, artists create and paint even under fire. They create posters, they fight on the information and culture front. After all, what are we fighting for if not for culture? In our exhibition halls in cities where there is no hostilities, but there is a constant threat of missile attacks, air strikes, and sirens blaring, humanitarian and centers are open. Auctions are held and artists exhibit their works. Now we are holding online exhibitions, sales exhibitions to support the Ukraine army and help refugees. Together with European partners, we organize art projects both online and offline. Our refugee colleagues try to exhibit in European galleries, promotion Ukrainian culture abroad, and donate the process to help the Ukraine. Armed forces and artists left in Ukraine without means of livelihood. During the war, no Russia-Ukrainian reconciliation through culture is possible. Under no circumstance, any statements about fraternal purpose and common culture are only manipulative, which we at the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy of Ukraine and our organization argue to perceive as degrading the subjectivity of the Ukrainian people and its own culture heritage. Thank you very much.
Dear Konstantin, thank you for sharing with us what is happening and what Ukrainian artists are going through at the moment. I don't think we can even begin to picture your grief and fully understand what it's like to be in your shoes. So I would just thank you so much for this important sharing that you just did. And
thank you very much.
Yeah. Andrea, we have already had the statement of IAA, so I think I'm going to let the next speaker speak. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes. For me, if you check the chat window, I'm posting the links, so you can follow organization where Konstantin is from, and you can also follow Statement of IAA Europe. I'll keep posting also links of other speakers' organizations. So if you want to know more, just check the chat window. So I think we can proceed to the next speaker, to Georg, right?
Yeah. Okay, so after hearing about the perspectives and the situation directly in Ukraine, we also have invited two guests with us here from Austria, who have been very active in the last weeks in welcoming and helping artists that have fled the war in Ukraine, Margarete Makovec and Georg Schöllhammer. Margarete is unfortunately not able to join us today, but I will introduce her nonetheless, so you all can know who she is. Margarete Makovec is the founding member and artistic director of Rotor, Center for Contemporary Art in Graz, Austria. And Georg Schöllhammer is the head of Transit, Austria. Transit is a network of autonomous initiatives in contemporary art in Austria, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia. So Georg will talk to us about Artist Help Ukraine, Austria, or also called Office Ukraine, Shelter for Ukrainian Artists. Which have been set up by Margarete and Georg's help for Ukrainian artists and cultural workers fleeing the war in Ukraine and for seeking shelter in Austria. Office Ukraine helps connect with Ukrainian artists and cultural workers, institutions and initiatives, as well as artists all over Russia. It assists in finding accommodation, studio places, and residencies, providing information on application and opportunities, and tries to help finding jobs and grants. It is a mediating platform. So, Georg, can you please tell us about your experiences in the last weeks, how your platform was established, and what support you received in your experience, also what support is most needed looking back on your experiences these past few weeks?
Thank you for having us in this platform, which is a very important platform, and I'm really grateful that we are able to talk about that, what we've been trying to set up in Austria. But I'm very grateful for Konstantin's initial statement, because of he really touched both issues that are at really troublesome at the moment, which is first of all the lives and the working conditions of people in Ukraine and Ukrainian artists, but second as well, cultural heritage. It's a real great destruction of cultural heritage and memory going on. So it's not just life, it's really cultural heritage that is threatened, and I'm sure that this will be a talk, this should be a talk maybe in our initiative or in your initiative later. Nevertheless, maybe the background why we do this in Austria and how it came. All of the three institutions that are involved in this Office Ukraine, which is Rotor, Transit, and Künstlerhaus Büchsenhausen, have a long history of having worked in Ukraine and with Ukrainian artists. For Transit, we started to do that with the Visual Cultural Research Center, then at the Moria Academy in 2002, and Rotor and Büchsenhausen always provided artists from Ukraine residencies and exhibition possibilities. So we are quite familiar with the, let's say, contemporary art field. So when the war started, we have been, when, so to say, the troops aggregated at the Ukrainian borders, we have constantly been in touch with our colleagues in Ukraine, and nobody actually believed till the 22nd that this war really would happen, though all the Secret Service information was talking the counter. So when it started, we immediately called each other and said we have to act because of there might be a lot of things going on that where we can help. But we said we must help in Austria, so we cannot help internationally. We must center it, and we called immediately the Ministry of Cultural Affairs if they would support such an initiative. I must say our initiative is really an artist's initiative from independent art spaces and is not official or state initiative. But the state immediately said, well, let us meet on Monday, which was just a few days later, and see what we can do. So we started to build up 3 offices, one in Vienna, one in Innsbruck, and one in Graz. And the aim of these offices is to actually, we saw that in the Syrian crisis. We saw artists coming in and landing in some refugee camps or as a taxi driver. So we thought we can use our knowledge and our, so to say, connections within Austria to make this different this time. And we said we must do it for all the artists and the cultural workers community, and not just the visual artists. So it's for composers as well as it's for authors, it's for orchestra musicians as well as it's for performers. And we are linking these people into different to the field, to the institutional field, and to people that want to help in Austria. We have moderation for these people. We have translation services. We give housing and residences. We connect housing and residences. We connect to the art schools and art universities. So the art universities open programs for Ukrainian students all over the countries. The University of Applied Art, for instance, for 40, and they're making new exams for them. We connect to conservatories. A lot of musicians are coming in. The idea is that people stay within their community and get maybe long-term perspectives of working together. And this is backed up by a few other initiatives. Already on 27th, we started a huge screening at the Museumsquartier, at the Leopold Museum, Museumsquartier in Vienna, is one of the biggest museums complexes in Austria, housing the Museum of Modern Art and housing the Klimt and Schiele collection of Leopold. But with the naivety of introducing as well critical artists from Russia and from Belarus, who then was thought to maybe join the war, and artists, international artists that had working connections to Ukraine, like Hito Steyer or Clemens von Wedemeyer. So they all donated new or old work, and we did a screening to open the initiative and to make it public. We built up an internet platform and really offices, and we give, in these offices, we have people working that have connections to Ukraine. Some of them, though, are Russians, but they have relatives in Ukraine, speak Russian and Ukrainian. Some of them are Belarusians, and some of them are coming, are refugees, and some of them are coming from Austria as they have been students, for instance, at Austrian Art Academies. All in all, we have 12 people working in the different offices, and we already had 600 incoming calls and have been able to give them housing, psychological help, residencies, and connect them to art initiatives all over the country. It's the Austrian Association of Galleries, it's museums, it's festivals where they can work. So we thought this is a good idea, not just to give financial help, we give them a greeting financial help. So we ask them for donating a sentence, an image or whatsoever, and we collect these images, and then they can get something like a welcome money, like pocket money for the first days. And we managed to get from the state and from the region funds in the way that the people, there's a first installment of 300,000 euros from the state that will be backed up with another 300,000 by next month. And people together with the Austrian colleagues can come in for working stipendia and project stipendia, so that it's not just help in the physical help and helping connecting, but as well the possibility to really get money for projects that are developed in Austria. And as well, in all the 3 cities, we opened spaces. In Vienna, we opened the so-called Freiraum, Ukraine, Free Space Ukraine in the Museum's Quarter, which is a 300 square meter exhibition place, but we opened it for meetings of the artists community, for small exhibitions and presentations, and as well for presentations of the artists that stayed in Ukraine, which is very important. For instance, the other day we have a screening of the Free Filmmakers collective from Mariupol, working together with the Art Arsenal. They are curating a small exhibition. We are working together with a dancer that is doing dance there, with art therapists that have fled to Austria. They are giving, so to say, therapy courses for the other refugees. We have now, I think we have in Vienna 35,000 refugees, and we are doing collective meetings once a week where these people can share the experiences in exile. That's more or less what we are doing in Vienna and what we have built up in Vienna. Thank you for your invitation again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Georg, and for creating this fantastic platform and for all the good work that you do. I was really inspired by all you said now, and really impressed also. So thank you. And our next speaker is from Sweden and active in the field of our artist residencies, and lately also especially in the field of emergency residencies for artists that have had to flee from their countries. So I'm introducing now Theresa Lekberg. She's a board member of the Swedish Artist Residency Network SWAN, and the coordinator for the SWAN emergency residencies. And Theresa is performance artist and co-founder of an artist residency program. SWAN is a network of nearly 100 residencies in Sweden and open for everyone who works with or wants to start working with residencies at art activities. With a wide range of actors representing both artist-driven initiatives and institutions. And this spring, SWAN established emergency residencies for artists fleeing from their country or displaced from the Russian war against Ukraine to get a safe residence in Sweden. And here, SWAN is working with the organization Artists at Risk, not to confuse with Artists at Risk Connection with a similar name, who are also with us today and who will be speak for in a little moment. Artists at Risk is a non-profit organization existing since 2013. And working at the intersection of human rights and the arts, and actively matching creatives that seek safety with local host organizations like the SWAN emergency residencies. So Theresa, it was your engagement with these emergency residencies that drew our attention to SWAN. It would be great if you could tell us a bit about the establishment of the emergency residencies and also about the collaboration with Artists at Risk.
Thank you, Hilde. And thank you for inviting SWAN to this meeting. Thank you also, Konstantin, for sharing where you are and what's going on now from Ukraine. And I also want to say, because Georg, it's similar approach we had in Sweden when the war began. I start with a bit, Hilde told that SWAN is a loose network, meaning we were not organized at the beginning of the war. So we're a board of 8 people, and the board, Swan's board, is also consisting of both institutions, art institutions in Sweden, region members, and or independent artists or NGOs like myself. So I have to start on a personal note, because this is how the initiative began in me. On the 24th of the invasion, me and my husband, we run a residency on for ourselves, Arts Ocean, and we realized that we can do something, and that also, since I am a board member of SWAN, we can make a national organization of emergency residencies, and what we need to do it. So on the 28th, we had the board meeting. I introduced the idea of emergency residencies to my fellow members, and they all immediately said yes. And from that day, we had to organize ourselves, because it was just like some small meetings, and we were trying to build up SWAN as a bigger organization, and it's just begun. So we had to start from scratch. Hanna Isaksson, who's also with me here today, she's from Region Norrbotten in Sweden, in the north. She's also the host of Swedish Lapland Air, which is a part of the northern residencies in Sweden. And she contacted the Swedish government and the cultural institute, and they responded. So we are now applying for funding, so that we can, for a very long period of time, help Ukrainian artists with an art grant, with artist grant, material grant, and residency. So we can initially have 3 months, but we want to prolong it, because there is a need for that. But it was kind of a snowball that became an avalanche, and we on the 28th, we started to invite other organizations as well, internationally. So we have had, on the Swedish side, ICORN. Now Helge is here, who introduced ICORN too. And we talked with Karin Hansson from ICORN. We introduced the cooperation with Artists at Risk, and immediately we reached out to Res Artis, because we were also planning on going to Kijev and the Res Artis meeting there, conference. So on the 2nd, the 2 days after the initiative came to life, we had a meeting with all these organizations from international places, and the network in Sweden also. I think it was 80 people joining forces to work together in all the ways possible, because we didn't, as I said already, have a clear organization. So we had to do a website. We had to decide who is going to do what, and in this process, we realized for the artists coming, it is most important to have a very quick application process. So Artists at Risk are very experienced in this, and they already had a system for this type of application. So they we joined forces with them, so artists only have one application and then they can immediately be matched to a Swedish residency. We didn't want any open calls because the most important was that it was a really clear and simple way to come to another residence now. Yeah, that was the beginning.
Theresa, such large residency networks you have in Sweden with Swan, many countries do not have that. It seems like it's a very important tool, you know, for strengthening artist situations and to lobby for the concept of artistic residencies in general.
I can continue talking about.
Tell us a bit about the benefits of your network.
Sorry.
The benefits of your network and maybe also how this can maybe have a long-term streak.
Yeah, since it is a bit in Sweden, it's not really, there are many residencies and have been for quite a long time, but it's not recognized, so we didn't really have a platform or funding from the government and so on. But now I think now everyone knows what artist residency is, so it's not going to be a problem anymore. But this what Hanna and the regions before, it's 3 regions in Sweden who have built up this platform for the 100 residencies initiative there is, and it was, you know, a very lucky circumstance that we were able to reach out to so many residencies and contact them, and they could immediately say yes to become emergency residencies. So 25 residencies of these 100 has signed up on the list and welcoming Ukrainian artists, and we have already now people working with their art in our residencies. So yeah, it's on, but also for a very long perspective, we hope that this can be something incorporated in all in Sweden to have emergency residencies for a long period of time. But I also want to say that why I burned for this is because my grandmother is born into World War II, and she's, you know, she's born in Berlin and she grew up with war. So this is why I immediately had this cathartic response that we have to act, because World War II, if we look back, history is repeating, and if we look back to that, Sweden, where I live in now, is passive, and this was like a very important force within me that said that we need to act now. So that's what we can do. That's what I came up with. That's what resource I have and could spread. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Theresa. That was really inspiring, and it has given us a lot to think about, I think. And acting is what we can do, and inspire each other to connect and to be not leisurely. And our next guest now is Helge Lunde. He's an extremely active and experienced person in the field of international solidarity and networking and in the advancement of freedom of expression. Helge Lunde is the executive director of ICORN, the International Cities of Refuge network. He was among the main figures behind the establishing of ICORN back in 2006, and he has been its executive director ever since. ICARN is an independent international organization of at present 75 member cities and regions in Europe and beyond, offering safe havens for persecuted writers, artists, and human rights defenders, advancing freedom of expression, defending democratic values, and promoting international solidarity. Any city can become an ICARN member. The ICARN member cities provide long-term temporary protection and promotion of persecuted writers, artists, and human rights defenders from worldwide. And through inviting, receiving, and integrating the ICARN guest writer artist with the local community, the ICARN member cities unite in a global network of solidarity, creativity, and hospitality. So ICARN is really the best practice example of a network in the field of our talk today, truly engaging locally and regionally. When looking at the years of your engagement, Helge, what is the long-term evolvement and of things at the moment? Where are things going in your opinion? And how can we engage what is needed the most? Please, Helge.
Thank you very much, Hilde, for this very nice introduction and comprehensive. I'm very glad to be here, first of all, and I will also, first and foremost, it's a big honor to be here together with you, Konstantin, and all your fellow artists and all the people of Ukraine. That's why we are here, and that's why I think that it's so important to gather and together now and try to share light on whatever it's possible to do to help out in this situation. And I also want to commend the IAA for organizing it, and I think I just mentioned before I come back to ICARN again that I think in particular in unprecedented situations like this, like the war in Ukraine, when it's war in Europe again, I think initiatives and organizations like the IAA and also branch organizations for other genres like I mean poets or musicians, and I think they have an enormously important role to play, because of course very much like we have heard now in Sweden and in Austria with this very well elaborated networks, but also singular organizations all over the place, because there are so many people, so many artists coming and fleeing, and we don't know who they are. They don't know where to go. They don't know for what kind of placements to seek, and so on. So the fact that residency organizations and all branch and copyright organizations or whatever are being turned into solidarity organizations, that is one of the most kind of promising features, I think, with what we see is happening now. So I think that is a very, very important message to learn. And for ICARN, I think what we I mean, this is unprecedented. Nobody could believe that something like this could happen, and I think we in our organization we were struck last year by what happened in Afghanistan. That's also totally unprecedented, and was bringing many of the organizations that we are working with, many of you that are here today, the Artists at Risk Connection, Artists at Risk, Martin Roth Initiative, and many others. I mean, that put us into total, and also the big journalist organizations, because ICARN is working with art, like you said, with both with journalists and writers and artists and other human rights defenders. But it's brought us in a situation where we have become totally overwhelmed. So that is one of the features I want to mention, because we were kind of luckily the war in Ukraine did not break out exactly the same time as the crisis came in Afghanistan, but it is we really had to face a situation that we didn't believe that could happen. And one thing is that I mean, we were speaking about who we are in the big world and about the governments and the United Nations and the EU and so on, but the fact that the free world, or whatever you call it, could let a country like Afghanistan down, I think that is what was one of the reasons why Putin could embolden himself to go into Ukraine, because that is a speculation. It's not something that I will kind of line up with arguments for here, but I think it belongs to the discussions we have to. We are in the world, and we are important actors in the world, and we have to speak out our opinions, and we have to join together, all the organizations that have, but also to pressure our governments and our bilateral or organizations, both the EU and the UN, to come to their senses. I mean, the referring to, I mean, since you mentioned what, I mean, in your introduction, and you challenged me kind of to reflect around what is really happening. That's why I'm mentioning this. I'm bringing up Afghanistan, a total civilizational collapse that really was and still is. I mean, it's important, I think, to know, to underline that we are still in that crisis, even though it's now, of course, the war in Ukraine, and that is the both the focus and what is really occupying us. We are in a world where the governments and the big authorities are kind of playing games that is creating all these terrible situations that we are trying to act upon, both as individuals and as organizations. What's ICON's role here? In one sense, it's maybe surprising, but ICON as an organization has barely yet received applications for persecuted artists and writers and journalists from Ukraine, and there are many reasons for that. But we are a long-term protection and promotion system. So mainly, I think those who kind of approach us used to expect that it will take some time before everything is settled and refuge can be granted in one of the ICON member cities. But we have of course seen quite early, also before the war broke out, but also during the war now, that artists from Russia and Ukraine, there are a quite big increase in contacts and in applications coming from those countries, of course, resulting very much from the situation and the decreasing possibility to express yourself freely in those countries, like in Belarus and in Russia. But we expect, and that of course we are monitoring the situation in Ukraine from day to day, from week to week, and of course we are very much trying to be of help, and also of course through cooperating with all the organizations that are more active in the field and that are also offering more instant help, like we already have heard about. But I can mention one. We have member cities in. I mean, our task is to make cities actors and ambassadors for human rights and freedom of expression. So that is our very big task. So of course we are working constantly on making cities aware that they can be an actor, even if their country is not behaving. Then the cities in the country can do a lot more than their national governments can. And one of the countries where we have seen that happening is in Poland. We have 4 Polish members. We have
Krakow was the first one, but we have Wrocław and Gdansk and Katowice. And we have seen during the last years that the cities in Poland have really been stepping up. I think in Krakow, for instance, they have established LGBTI-friendly zones, and in total contrast to what some other places in the country has been established. So we have seen, even before the war broke out, and then the kind of overwhelming solidarity was visualized from many places in Poland. We saw that cities were kind of early out to present an alternative to the narrative that that came from the national authorities of that country, of Poland. So, and just to finish, maybe I can just to give an example. The icon resident in Gdansk at the moment is a Belarusian artist and activist, Lesia Cholka. And she is very much an example of an artist who is also an activist. So you can say the term artivist is maybe also very kind of fitting to her. It's a fantastic person, a fantastic artist. And as soon as the border crisis broke out in Belarus, between Belarus and Poland, she was, of course, I mean, she has her studio in Gdansk, but she was on the border helping out with helping as many as possible of the refugees that came, that was kind of smuggled into Belarus to fight for Putin against Europe. So she was and she is now working in Gdansk and opening an exhibition there soon. I can mention that icon as that we will have our general assembly in Gdansk in June, and we also expect that to be a manifestation of solidarity with Ukraine. The theme for the whole assembly is, of course, solidarity. We will convene at the European Solidarity Center, and the keynote speech will be by Lech Walesa, who will speak about what does solidarity mean into the world of today and tomorrow. And just following that, we are in the making of the program, because it was not very obvious that we could gather in real life, but we have chosen to do so. So that's from the 8th to 10th of June and already, but the program is then still in the making. So following the speech of Lech Walesa, we will have mayors from significant cities in Europe to discuss what can cities do, what is the city able to contribute with, what should be the task and the responsibility of cities in times like this. And we definitely also will invite mayors from Ukrainian cities into that discussion. So that's, I think, for now, I can also answer questions as we go along.
I think we'll take the questions and inputs from the floor after we had all the speakers. But thank you, Helge, and also for your long-term involvement in ICORN, and for your work to secure freedom of speech and freedom of expression. So important for us artists. So then we have one more guest here from our large transnational network, that is from Artists at Risk Connection. And here we have a close connection again to Helge's work, and he is also on the advisory board for this project. So I'm introducing now Jessica Sun. She is the program coordinator for Artists at Risk Connection, which is a project of PEN America. And PEN is for writers, a bit similar to what IAA is for visual artists. PEN America is a part of PEN International, and PEN International has more than 140 national chapters worldwide. PEN is an organization and stands for the intersection of literature and human rights, championing freedom of expression, and is one of the world's first non-governmental organizations, founded in 1921 in London, so it's old. Jessica Sun, as the coordinator of Artists at Risk Connection, amongst others, hold a BA in political science and a certificate in public policy with a focus on international development on human rights. Artists at Risk Connection assist prosecuted artists by connecting them to a large global network of resources with over 800 organizations worldwide. It facilitates cooperation among human rights and art organizations and amplifies their stories, raising visibility for the field of artistic freedom. Artists at Risk Connection's goal is to address the needs of artists at risk and the organization that serve them. So Jessica, as I understand it, Artists at Risk Connection is one project open, and it is there for all artist branches, right? What can you tell us a little bit what initiated the idea for this project and what has become the outcome so far?
Yes, thank you so much, Hilda. Thank you to IAA Europe for the invitation, and to Konstantin and my fellow speakers as well. It's very nice to hear from all of you and to connect. You know, I see some friendly faces and many others that I hope to connect to. So I'll do a little bit of the background of ARC and some of what we do, and a little bit like Helge, sort of, I think our work during the crisis in Afghanistan really informed our current work in Ukraine. So that will be sort of the byline of my remarks. So as mentioned, the Artists at Risk Connection is a project of PEN America and was launched in 2017 to expand PEN's mission to artists of all disciplines, as well as cultural practitioners. And that was largely because, you know, we saw this gap, and PEN received many requests from not only writers, but also, again, artists of all disciplines, and saw that there was a gap in strong international support networks for artists, whereas, you know, that it is available for journalists at risk, for example. So ARC works to safeguard the right to artistic freedom of expression. And as mentioned, we have a global network of over 800 organizations, and that brings together organizations in the arts and cultural sector, as well as human rights organizations, and sort of bridge those communities as well in order to provide crucial resources for artists and cultural practitioners at risk. And we play the role of liaising between artists and those organizations, and assisting artists to find resources and complete applications for assistance. We have, since 2017, connected more than 500 individual artists or arts collectives from over 63 countries to a wide range of direct services, so including fellowships and residencies, emergency funding, legal assistance, advocacy, exhibition opportunities, amongst many others. And we are very lucky to work with many partners, including in Europe, so ICORN, Move, Protect Defenders, Frontline Defenders, the International Coalition for Filmmakers at Risk, and so many others. So one major issue that we see is that, as mentioned, you know, artists don't necessarily know where to turn to for support when they become imperiled, and arts institutions also don't always know of existing resources. And sort of on the flip side, many human rights organizations where the direct services are located don't necessarily consider at-risk artists as part of their mandates, or are not as well versed in the field of arts and culture. So we assess artists' needs and let them know about these opportunities and resources, and actually help them to write and put together applications for assistance. Many artists have not done so before, or don't know how to sort of navigate the language of human rights that helps to put a stronger application so as to increase their chances of success. And last year, we released a safety guide for artists, which provides practical guidance to artists specifically so that they can prepare for, navigate, counter, and overcome threats and persecution. It's currently available in English, French, and Spanish, but we have translations into Russian and Arabic forthcoming, hopefully this year. And as part of that launch, we also developed a series of free trainings for artists and for organizations on physical and digital security. So to bolster those practices, again, with an eye towards safety and preparing or responding to threats. So we also, those are open. We have some regionally specific trainings and continue to develop more on different themes or focused on specific groups as is demanded. So the disconnect between resources and individuals, between fields, and often across borders, organizations in the US may not be connected to organizations in Europe or in Asia, for example. As I mentioned, has become especially apparent in the crises of recent years, not only Ukraine, Afghanistan, but also, in Myanmar, in Cuba, and in Ethiopia, and so many others. So in the case of Afghanistan, during the withdrawal and the rush to evacuate people, including many artists who are directly at risk, there was a clear need to help connect our partners working across the different areas and specialities sort of needed for all the steps towards evacuations. So partners in the US who could offer maybe fellowships that might allow for a visa or airport pass didn't necessarily have connections on the ground in a rapidly changing situation of like what is needed to get into the airport or get onto a flight, for example. So ARC and Pan America, we organized coordination calls to bring together our various partners from Europe, Canada, the US, and Asia, and again, across those sectors as well, to facilitate those connections and to share information, resources, news, specific information on our individual countries in an effort to more effectively and efficiently help Afghan artists. And of course, that situation continues to be extremely difficult. So we continue to meet. And when Russia invaded Ukraine, we saw a similar need, and many of our partners who had appreciated sort of those connections that were facilitated via the coordination calls. So we now also co-host with colleagues from Harvard Scholars at Risk and the University of Iowa, a weekly Ukraine coordination meeting, mostly with US and European partners, similarly to share updates, opportunities, resources, and to discuss the needs and ways to support Ukrainian artists and Ukrainian cultural heritage. We currently have about 90 invited participants, and it tends to be a group of 30 or so people in any given meeting, and that continues to grow. We're, especially right now, looking for more European and especially Ukrainian organizations or individuals to join us. So we'd be happy to have you join us if you're interested. I will drop my email in the chat, and you can just follow up with me. And on the question of what is needed, every situation is different and has its own complexities, of course, but there are many similarities and challenges that are across our fields of artistic freedom and artist protection. So as colleagues have previously mentioned, I think the need for opportunities like residencies and fellowships Financial assistance is always needed. Demand and need is always greater than the supply. And I think in our coordination calls, we've also been discussing sort of amongst the existing host institutions and fellowship granting organizations, how do we encourage and support others who are interested in building such programs, or expanding to and reaching more museums, research institutions, universities who have the resources or may have the resources to be able to build these programs to do so and to ensure their longer term longevity. So I definitely think that, as Theresa mentioned, with SWAN sort of coming together and really formalizing a network of residencies is really important. I really applaud the work of my fellow speakers and others who have done so. And I would also like to share that ARC very recently was given a transformational grant by the Helen Frankenthaler Foundation to now also be able to provide our own direct resources. So we are in the process of setting up 2 grant funds for visual artists at the moment. So an emergency fund for visual artists and a resiliency fund. So a more medium or long-term fund for visual artists. And we're still in the early stages of figuring out the structure of these grants, but we've expedited the creation of an emergency fund for Ukrainian visual artists. The applications are live on our website and available in English and in Ukrainian. So I will also share that link below. We welcome you to share that with your networks, your friends, colleagues, etc. And likewise, we've compiled a list of resources for Ukrainian artists. It's not been updated in a few weeks, but we are working on updating those as well. And I think my last point is just to say, I think it's for sure, it's very important, as I was saying, every situation is different. And so, and every artist is different. So asking artists, what their needs are and what kind of support they need is really crucial. But many of the artists that we work with really stress the importance of cross-border solidarity and advocacy. And I think especially in the case of Ukraine right now, where Ukrainian cultural heritage is under attack, inviting Ukrainian artists, writers, translators, etc. for panels, exhibitions, performances, opportunities to publish their work, and buying their work, sharing their work is, of course, always important, I think, for any artist, but especially for artists who are at risk and in exile. So I think I've said a lot, so I will leave it open.
Well, thank you, Jessica. That was very illuminating and so inspiring also to hear all these talks, because it gives us such hope for the future, and to see all people trying to do their part, and for artists that are on the run or fleeing and risking their lives every day. So the best of luck to you and your organization. I hope very many will join and connect and be members. And now I will also say that we will collect all the links and all the connections that we have now and share with all of you after the talk. And we will also make a small movie out of this, so you can also share with your NGOs or your organizations or whoever you like. And yeah, we have some very few moments left, and if anybody would like to share something or speak up, please let us know.
Thanks. I also wrote it in the questions. It's a question for everybody, but also a question for Konstantin. I know that a number of Ukrainians do not wish to leave the country at this moment. Many of them are active, sharing their poetry or their artwork on Facebook. But on the one hand, I wonder if anybody here has been experimenting or has already offered remote residencies, that is to say, residencies that support an artist who wants to stay in Ukraine, not only intellectually and artistically, but also with funding. And the second is to Konstantin, are artists who are in the country able to find the time and the means of continuing to work? So would this be a helpful thing to do?
In now, our artist has many problems with work materials, but they want to go to the artist residence in other countries and in Ukraine where not war.
If I may step in, we have another Ukrainian person here from Ukrainian Cultural Foundation who is raising her hand. It's Natalia Kernitska. Maybe she could say us more about the situation. Natalia, would you?
Greetings for everyone. Thank you for this meeting, and thank you, Mary, for sharing this meeting for us, for Ukrainian Cultural Foundation. Yes, as you already said, that I'm representative of Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, and it's state institution that supports Ukrainian artists and projects aimed at the development and promotion of Ukrainian culture through a competitive selection. And today, unfortunately, due to some obvious circumstances that according to the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, all our funds in amount of approximately 20 million euro provided for our operational activities and implementation of cultural projects in 2022 were transferred to the Ukrainian army to counter aggression of the Russian Federation. And right now, today, we have 56, it's hard even to imagine, a 56th day of the Ukrainian people's heroic struggle against the Russian military invasion goes on. Russian occupation continued to shell us, to bomb us, and but we still believe, and we have to believe in Ukrainian army. They continue bomb big cities, and we live in Ukraine from siren to siren, going down to our shelters from bomb, and it's difficult because we are all nervous the whole day. And right now in Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, we still try to find money to finance Ukrainian culture, to support Ukrainian artists in Ukraine, because as you know, a lot of them moved to European cities to try to shelter their families and try to continue their work. But still we have a lot of cultural professionals in Ukraine, and they also need our support and your support, and we have launched our fundraising campaign because as I already told, that all money from Ukrainian Cultural Foundation were transferred to the Ukrainian army. Also, what I wanted to tell that each year we receive more than 2,000 applications, and we supported more than 500 institutions in Ukraine. That's Ukrainian artists and people and cultural organization. They believe us because we are a transparent organization. And right now we try to find, try to make all efforts and to find money from our European countries, from European partners, this fundraising campaign to trying to support our artists who are still stay in Ukraine. You were asking about residences in Ukraine and if artists still work. If talking about Western cities, Lviv or other Western part of Ukraine, they sometimes change their work profile. They try to volunteer, they try to shelter our monuments, cultural heritage, try to do everything they can to protect our past and our future today. About residents, we have some Ukrainian residents in Carpathian Mountains, but they also trying to find any financial from European grants and European partners. But it's short-term residences, so they have to move from one city to another city. They try to live in our friends, neighbors, people who just help and want to help. Right now in Ukraine, we are like a big family and network, our network in artist and professional cultural world. It's really help each other and to help them who need it.
Thank you so much, Natalia. That was really good to hear directly from the horse's mouth. Do we have anybody else who wants to say something, share something, or ask a question to any of the participants? If not, we are also on the last of our time schedule. So, okay. But then I think on behalf of IAA Europe, I would like to give my sincerest thanks to all the participants. And maybe Andrea, you can have a small closing words from you too. Thank you for everybody.
Sure. Well, how to sum this up? I think we would need another maybe extra day to go through all the topics that came from this discussion and from these inputs. Well, I would like to thank to all the speakers, to Konstantin and to Natalia, who informed us directly from Ukraine. What to add, I'm from the country who remembers from its history what it means when the neighboring country comes and occupies your territory and your minds. Of course, I'm not comparing what happened to Czechoslovakia in 1968 to brutal killing of thousands of people here in Ukraine. No, I'm just saying that we, people from Ostbloc, maybe a little bit better understand what it means to be under the unwanted influence of another regime, and when the army of Soviet Union and armies of other countries paid a visit to us, they stayed for another 20 years. So I kind of understand what it means to fight for the freedom of Ukrainian people. So how can we help? I think we can help as an international association with sharing all the resources and information and residencies, everything we talked about now. We are collecting all the links. Jessica posted some of them and other people. So we are sending it to all of you. We are preparing some wrap-up email, and you can also find this in a week or two on YouTube. So this is what we can do for you now. I don't think we can we can change the situation of you know, military moves, but we can stand by you, helping you to feel welcome in our countries, and provide you as much as help as possible, financial, practical, psychological, because it's also about the mental health. I can meet people who are completely lost here because they don't know where to go, as we talked about it. So we will stay in touch. I would like to thank also to Georg. Georg, I was so impressed by the, you know, the reaction time of your artists run initiatives, and how you could react so immediately and find the fundings for this. I'm like, really, wow. And also I want to thank you to Theresa for I think the same thing, that for reshaping the residencies to emergency residencies. And also, Theresa, thank you so much for sharing your very personal story, and for your energy, and for your flame inside you, which keeps you going forward and helping people. Helge, I love the way activist, you mentioned activist, activist, right? I love that that word, and thank you for encouraging us to using our power as an organization to put some pressure on politicians, because that's gonna be pretty important. And I'm very sorry for not being, for my city, for not being a part of ICON, because I remember your visit in 2018 when you were asking Bratislava to join ICON. So I will do my best here to convince our authorities to finally join.
It will happen this year, by the way. Hopefully, it's on the move. It's on. There's a process, so Bratislava will join. Thank you.
I hope it will. And Jessica, wow. Navigating the whole world and so many worldwide organizations must be super challenging, and I thank you for that, and thank you for sharing all the information with us, and hope we all stay in touch, guys. I will send, I have all your emails, so I will send you follow up, and if you would be interested in another meeting, we can organize one, because what is ahead of us is so many issues. We can talk about how we can, you know, protect and preserve, mainly, of course, the lives of the people, because the people are those are the carriers of culture and cultural identity. But we have to talk also about protecting and preserving cultural heritage, I mean monuments and artworks, so both tangible and intangible values of art and culture. And we have to talk also about, you know, including Ukrainian refugees to our societies, because this is just a beginning. We have to think about further procedures like working permits and education for the kids of Ukrainian people coming into our countries. And what we cannot forget are people who are still staying in countries like Russia and Belarus, and they are, you know, also at the risk, and they are becoming dissidents in their own countries. So many issues to continue to talk about. So hope we'll stay in touch. I thank you so much that you have found the time during the Easter week and the Venice Biennial opening week, and that you were with us. And have a nice evening, and take care, please. Stay safe. Our Ukrainian friends who are still in Kiev and Kharkov or everywhere in Ukraine, please stay safe. Thank you, and see you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.